Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to make a case. A specific, evidence-based, completely serious case for something that ARMY has known intuitively for years but that the rest of the world is now being forced to acknowledge through data, through streaming numbers, through brand reputation rankings, through sold-out stadium tours, through the testimony of industry professionals from multiple countries and multiple musical traditions, and through the sheer accumulated weight of everything that has happened in the first few months of 2026 alone. The case is this: Jimin and Jungkook, individually and as a pair, are the most powerful artistic force operating in the global music landscape right now. Not in K-pop. Not in Asian music. In global music. And the world has already decided. It just has not fully said it out loud yet. Today, we are going to say it out loud. Let us start with the numbers, because the numbers are where the argument becomes impossible to dismiss. Jungkook's debut solo single 7 featuring Latto has crossed 2.8 billion streams on Spotify, sitting at number 69 on the platform's most streamed songs chart of all time and enjoying a 136-week streak on the weekly Top Songs global chart, the longest ever for an Asian solo artist. Read that again. 136 weeks on the weekly Top Songs global chart. That is 2.5 years of continuous presence on a chart that measures what people around the world are actively choosing to listen to in any given week. Not a spike of attention that faded. Not a viral moment that burned bright and disappeared. A sustained, consistent, week-over-week demonstration that a specific song by a specific artist has embedded itself into the listening habits of a global audience in a way that most songs from most artists simply never achieve. And that is just one song. Jungkook's solo catalog has surpassed 9.4 billion total streams, with his debut solo album Golden topping 6.2 billion Spotify streams, making it the most streamed solo Asian album in the platform's history. Multiple tracks from the album, including Standing Next to You and 3D, have each individually surpassed 1 billion streams. 9.4 billion streams. That number is not a K-pop achievement. That is a global music achievement. That is the kind of number that places Jungkook in conversations that most artists in the world, working in any language and any genre, will never be a part of. Now turn to Jimin, because his numbers are equally extraordinary and tell a story that is in some ways even more remarkable. Jimin passed 2.3 billion plays on Spotify with his solo single Who, a first for an Asian solo artist without a featured collaborator. Who is the main track from his second solo album Muse, which reached 3.8 billion plays, also a first for a Korean-language solo effort. Who spent 33 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100, the longest run for a K-pop male solo track, peaking at number 12. The detail that deserves the most attention in that entire paragraph is the phrase, without a featured collaborator. Because in the contemporary streaming landscape, one of the most reliable strategies for driving cross-demographic listening is featuring an established Western artist whose fanbase will encounter the track through their own consumption habits. Jungkook used it effectively with 7 featuring Latto. But Jimin's who reached 2.3 billion streams without that scaffolding. Without a featured name to borrow recognition from. Just Jimin's voice, Jimin's artistry, and Jimin's music finding its own way to 2.3 billion ears around the world. With over 6.5 billion total Spotify streams, Jimin became the first solo K-pop artist to achieve that milestone. His album Face made history by entering at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 with Like Crazy, and has since accumulated about 1.5 billion streams. The first solo K-pop artist to reach 6.5 billion total streams. The artist who sent a Korean-language song to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 as a solo act. These are not just K-pop milestones. They are milestones in the history of popular music, moments where the boundaries of what was considered possible for non-English language music in the American market were permanently redrawn. And these individual numbers, extraordinary as they are, tell only part of the story. Because what makes Jimin and Jungkook the most dangerous duo in music right now is not just what they have achieved separately. It is what they represent together, what happens when you put them in the same space, on the same stage, in the same cultural moment, and watch the combined force of their individual gifts create something that exceeds the sum of its parts. In the April 2026 boy group individual brand reputation ranking, conducted through big data analysis of 115 million brand data points from 755 individual boy group members, Jimin ranked second and Jungkook ranked third, together occupying two of the top three positions in the entire ranking of every active male idol in Korea. Two of the top three spots out of 755 individuals. That ranking is not based on chart performance alone. It is based on a comprehensive analysis of participation, media presence, communication, and community engagement, a multidimensional measure of cultural influence that captures not just how many people are streaming someone's music but how deeply they are embedded in the conversations and communities and daily lives of the people who follow them. And Jimin and Jungkook, together, dominate that measure in a way that no other pair of artists in Korean music can match. But the real test of what these two mean in 2026 is not in the data. The data confirms what the live performances demonstrate. And the live performances in the Arirang World Tour have been generating the kind of reactions that make it impossible to talk about Jimin and Jungkook in modest terms. At the opening night of the World Tour in Goyang, Jungkook overwhelmed the audience with his explosive voice, control of strength, and expressiveness from the very beginning of the performance. Fans responded by calling him a live genius and saying his vocals, charisma, and dancing were all the best. That phrase, live genius, is not something fans deploy lightly. In the context of K-pop, where live performance quality is taken extraordinarily seriously by audiences who have spent years developing sophisticated ears and eyes for what separates genuine excellence from technically proficient execution, being called a live genius is a specific and meaningful distinction. It means that what you do on stage cannot be replicated in a studio, cannot be manufactured in post-production, and cannot be faked in any meaningful sense. It means that the voice works better under pressure than it does in controlled conditions. It means that the body responds to an audience with a quality of presence and commitment that transforms performance into something closer to communion. Jungkook has been called a live genius by the people who have watched him perform for over a decade. And the Arirang World Tour is producing a new generation of evidence for that designation with every show. On the second day of the tour in Goyang, Jimin dominated the stage with a clear presence, appearing in Fake Love with blonde hair flying in the wind, drawing immediate attention with a visual and energy that fans described as godlike. On the 2.0 stage, he showed perfect body control and colorful stage manners, and on Normal he delighted the audience with soft and sweet vocals. There is a specific quality to Jimin's live performance that is genuinely difficult to describe and impossible to replicate, the quality of someone who is not simply executing a planned set of movements and vocal choices but inhabiting the music from the inside out, making decisions in real time that reflect a deep and intimate understanding of what the song requires and what the audience needs in each specific moment. That quality, combined with the technical foundation of years of rigorous training and the emotional intelligence that comes from a career spent in genuine conversation with millions of people who feel real things in response to his work, produces performances that people who witness them describe as life-changing. After the Goyang concert, Jimin said, "I missed you a lot for a long time, and thank you for waiting. I will continue to repay you with good performances and music. Thank you for being with me so far, and I will always be with you in the future." There is something about the way Jimin speaks to his audience that goes beyond the conventional artist-fan dynamic. He does not address his audience as fans of his work. He addresses them as people he has a genuine relationship with, people he has missed, people whose patience he is grateful for, people he feels a specific and personal obligation toward. That orientation, that quality of treating the audience not as consumers of his product but as participants in something that matters to him on a personal level, is a significant part of what makes him such an extraordinarily powerful performer. The music is the vehicle. The relationship is the destination. At Tokyo Dome, BTS drew 111,000 fans across two sold-out nights, the group's first Japan performance in 7 years. Jimin read out a letter he wrote for the audience, saying it had been a long time since his last visit and that he was grateful to be back, adding that he would work harder to show fans more and more beautiful stages. A handwritten letter. Read aloud to a stadium. That is the kind of gesture that tells you everything about the person making it, about the care they bring to their relationship with their audience, about the understanding that the people in those seats are not just numbers in an attendance figure but individual human beings who showed up because something real and important brought them there. Now let us step back from the specific moments and think about what Jimin and Jungkook represent in the broader context of where music is in 2026. Because the story of these two artists is not just a K-pop story. It is a story about how the music industry's assumptions about language, geography, and cultural accessibility have been systematically dismantled by the specific combination of talent, work ethic, emotional intelligence, and genuine connection with audiences that these two people have demonstrated over the course of their careers. Both Jimin and Jungkook have hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 as solo acts during BTS's hiatus period, a distinction that makes them among the very small number of artists from any country, working in any language, who have achieved that milestone. #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Individually. As Korean artists, singing in Korean, without compromising the musical or cultural identity of their work to appeal to American radio. That is not a K-pop achievement. That is a pop music achievement. That is the kind of thing that Elvis did, that the Beatles did, that Michael Jackson did, reaching the top of the most competitive singles chart in the world and doing it on your own terms. And the infrastructure of influence that surrounds them makes the picture even more extraordinary. Jungkook is the global ambassador for Chanel Beauty, for Hublot, for Calvin Klein, three of the most recognized luxury brands in the world, covering French fragrance, Swiss watchmaking, and American fashion. That breadth of luxury brand association is not something that happens to people who are popular within a specific cultural niche. That is what happens when a person's influence has become genuinely universal, when the world's most prestigious brands look at who they want associated with the values and aesthetics of their company, and the answer keeps being the same name. Jimin, similarly, has attracted creative attention and public praise from filmmakers, directors, producers, and cultural figures across multiple industries and multiple continents, the kind of cross-industry recognition that speaks to an artistry that cannot be contained within any single category. The streaming dominance of Jimin and Jungkook indicates that K-pop's globalization is becoming a permanent structural force in the music industry. Their albums represent a situation in which non-English music commands sustained global attention through repeated listening and deeper regional penetration, with Jimin and Jungkook's individual catalogs implying that K-pop's globalization is not a temporary phenomenon but a permanent shift in how the world consumes music. A permanent shift. Not a trend. Not a moment. A permanent change in the architecture of the global music industry, driven in significant part by two people from South Korea who began their careers as teenagers in a small entertainment company that nobody outside of Korea had heard of, and who spent the years since then doing the work, the relentless, unglamorous, physically and emotionally demanding work of becoming the kind of artists whose influence cannot be contained by language barriers or geographic boundaries or the conservative assumptions of an industry that spent decades telling the world that pop music had to be in English to matter. The Arirang World Tour, which will run through March 2027, will put Jimin and Jungkook in front of audiences across 34 cities and stadiums that hold tens of thousands of people each. Every single show has already sold out. The average ticket price is nearly $500 on the secondary market. The economic activity generated by BTS's touring is being measured in the billions of dollars and compared to Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, the highest-grossing concert tour in recorded history. And at the center of that extraordinary commercial and cultural phenomenon are two vocalists whose live performances are generating the kinds of reactions from audiences and critics and industry professionals that the music business has not seen since the height of the era when pop music was genuinely, undeniably changing the world. The world has already decided. The data says it. The brand reputation rankings say it. The streaming numbers say it. The sold-out stadiums say it. The handwritten letters read aloud to 100,000 people in Tokyo say it. The fans who stand in the rain and cry because they are finally close to someone whose music has meant something real to them say it. And the music itself, every carefully constructed lyric, every perfectly placed ad-lib, every moment of raw vocal performance that bypasses everything and goes straight to wherever in a human being the feeling lives, the music says it most clearly of all. Jimin and Jungkook are the most dangerous duo in music right now. Not because they are trying to be, but because they cannot help it. Because this is who they are, and because the world has run out of reasons to pretend otherwise. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment below telling me which moment from either of them in 2026 has hit you the hardest. I genuinely want to know. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you in the next one.